What's going on, Falcons fans? This is your boy Ricondo coming back at you with another video. So today, guys, the Atlanta Falcons introduced their new head coach, Kevin Stefanski, along with the president of football, Matt Ryan. And we're going to talk about what we heard from both of those guys today. Um, how are you guys feeling after what we heard from our new head coach and the president of football? Do you like what you heard? What are your feelings about some of the things that Kevin Stefanski had to say, especially about his staff? We'll talk about that. Of course, the big news that Tommy Reese is going to be calling the offense. How you guys truly feel about that? The things he had to say about the quarterback position. What's going on, T Terry? The things he had to say about the quarterback position. We'll talk about that. And then we'll get into the big news we heard about the GM search, where Atlanta Falcons are down to two candidates. Sounds like, and they should be making a announcement probably by the end of the week. So those are some of the things we're going to talk about today here on Ricondo Real Falcon Fans. So let's get right into it. If you have not already, guys, please subscribe to the channel. Please hit that notification bell so you know when I drop another video. Please hit the like button so I know you guys out here to talk about. Then please share my video throughout the YouTube universe so more people can come hear me talk about. That's right, these Atlanta Falcons. So we heard from the president of football today. See how I put that up there, president of football. That's right, Matty Ice, our new president of football, and the things that he had to say. First of all, I was really impressed about the new president of football. He laid out the whole process, and we talked about this. These guys interviewed 10 different head coaches, but when he laid out the process, how they got to Kevin Stefanski, um, I liked it a lot because they really did their due diligence, they did their homework on this, and you know it was real thoughtful process that they went through to make sure they came up with Kevin Stefanski to be the guy to take over this Atlanta Falcons football team in this new era of Atlanta Falcons football. Some of the things that Matt Ryan said was they want to create a physical football team. And what that means to me, that's the trenches. We talked about it, throughout through this offseason. We've been talking about the new coach, but a physical brand of football, right? Want to be able to run the ball, right? And he kind of went back to when he talked about when he was a young rookie quarterback under Mike Smith, and they went out and got a really good, solid offensive line. You guys remember those guys. Then they went out and got Michael Burner Turner, and when he was a young quarterback, it was really built around Michael Turner. All Matt Ryan had to do come in and play solid, right? A lot of people thought, when he got drafted, he was going to take time to develop, but let's not forget Matt Ryan came in, he took the reins right from the jump. But that run game that the Atlanta Falcons established for him, behind Michael Turner, guy who played behind, LaDainian Thomas, if you guys remember that, came in and this was just a staple of the Atlanta Falcons offense those first couple of seasons for Matt Ryan. It helped them out a lot, really did. But being able to have that explosive run game, utilizing the play action pass heavily to play off that run game. That's what Matt Ryan, their vision for this Atlanta Falcons team on the offensive side of the ball, that really lines up to what Kevin Stefanski is all about. If you go back and look at his tenure, um, 1 year with the Minnesota Vikings and his tenure with the Cleveland Browns, that's exactly what who did. He loved to run the ball. Honestly, he ran the ball to a fault a lot of times. A lot of times because he didn't have the kind of quarterback he played on, but they really established the run game there. And if you look at what the Atlanta Falcons has been doing since 2021, it's been able to run the ball really, really well. So I don't see where that's going to not be the case, especially when you got dynamic back like Bijan Robinson in the backfield, and also bringing in a guy like Bill Callahan, one of the best offensive lines coaches that's out there. So on the offensive side of the ball, physical brand of football. On the defensive side of the ball, you want to be able to stop the run. I don't know how many times I talked about this throughout the season. That's to me was one of the Falcons' biggest issues on the defense side of the ball. That run game on the defense was leaky. They had some games where they played really well, but a lot of times that really hurt the Atlanta Falcons not being able to get out the field, being able to stop the run. What you want to do, all teams want to do this, so it's not just the Atlanta Falcons, but you want to be able to stop the run and get to the passing downs, surefire passing downs, where you can pin your ears back and get after the quarterback. That's what when you talk about a physical brand of football, that's what you want to do. You look at the division that Kevin Stefanski just came from, right? We talking about the teams that was in that division, the Cleveland Browns, the Baltimore Ravens, the Pittsburgh Steelers. That was physical football in that division. We all know that. And if you guys remember me during the offseason, I said that's what I want the Atlanta Falcons to bring that kind of physicality to the NFC South, right? Bring that AFC North physicality to the NFC South, right? And if Kevin Stefanski, who played in that division for 6 years, knows what physicality looks like, bring that style of football to the NFC South, that's going to really be good. So being able to stop the run, being able to affect the quarterback physically and mentally, those are some of the things he talked about, right? So that's what he really felt like they found in Kevin Stefanski. One of the biggest thing that I really was impressed about is that he mentions the reference work that they did, going back and talking to NFL players, coaches, and things like that, and realigning what they thought they heard from the interview process and making sure that he was the right candidate. So not just talking to him those 2 times they talked to him via interview, but actually going back doing their homework outside of just speaking to him, going around the league, getting more insight into who Kevin Stefanski really is, and the respect that he garnered around the league really helped Matt Ryan lock in the decision to make him be the guy. A lot of people wanted younger coaches and things like that, but Kevin Stefanski, 20 years in the NFL, experienced coach, 2-time coach of the year, and believe it or not, guys, it's only like 6 guys in NFL history to have had NFL coach of the year twice, and Kevin Stefanski is one of those guys. Don't quote me on that, but it's not more than 6 or 8 guys that actually have the title to have coach of the year twice. So he has some kind of chops to be able to do that, especially if you look at how those teams are constructed in Cleveland, and the fact now the Cleveland Browns are having issues trying to fill that coaching position. Just to let you know about that organization is where the what makes what he did there a little bit more impressive than it is. But none of that matters, to be honest with you. What he did there, what they talked about today, it's about what is going to happen on the field when it comes 2026 and beyond. So, but I really like what Matt Ryan had to say today. And if you just take, his first 3 weeks on the job, I think he's doing a really, really good job. The fact that he mentioned that they actually reference, the staff too, right? So yes, Kevin Stefanski picked the staff, but it sounds like Matt Ryan had his hand in the staff decisions as well, right? If you look at going out to get the special team coach that we hired yesterday, he talked about him, talked about Tommy Reese, and of course he talked about bringing Jeff Albrecht back. I feel like not only did Matt Ryan have his input in, he helped do background checks on all those guys and make sure that they were the correct fit, right? Let Kevin pick his guys, but he didn't just be like, it's your show. We want to do a little background on the guys and make sure they're the right guys. And that's how they came up with, the determination to bring in some of these guys from the staff. So, man, I thought it was really impressive what we heard from Matty Ice today. Like I said, 3 weeks on the job. To me, he knocked it out of the park so far. And like I said, we don't know results yet, but at this point in time, you got to like what you're hearing from, you know, this this new position that Atlanta Falcons have in the president of football, and I can't be more impressed about what we've seen from him so far. So let's look at some of these comments. Um, Thanks for the O line coach. We need an upgrade. Yeah, and congratulations to Dwayne Leffert as well. He got hired as the offensive line coach for the Baltimore Ravens. I think that's a really good hire for those guys. I mean, Dwayne Leffert did a really good job with the offensive line, and I think we got an upgrade here in Atlanta with on Bill Callahan. But Dwayne Leffert was a pretty good, solid offensive coach, and if we couldn't get a guy like Bill Callahan, I wouldn't hated the fact that he stayed here and being our offensive line coach. But you know, I love it. I love it. Eddie said NFC East is historically the most physical and dominant. He can't get away from talking about NFC East. I don't know how they physically dominant. The Eagles, the only team I know in the NFC East is dominant. But okay, sure. They all in it together, and that's the way AB wants it to be. Of course, that's like one band, one sound, right? In Atlanta, right? That's Atlanta A&T from Drumline, right? One band, one sound. What's going on? T-Bone 816. He said historically. Well, yeah, the history is gone. Yeah, you got to go back. Wait, you got to go back into the '70s talking about that history. All right, let's get to what the head coach had to say, guys. Um, and like I said, new head coach for the Atlanta Falcons, Kevin Stefanski, came in today. Um, of course, he talked about he wanted to be here. He wanted to be with his organization, which is really a good thing. We want him to want to be here. You don't want to be somewhere you want to be. Of course, what else he was going to say? First of all, right? Of course, he took the job, so of course he's going to say he want to be here. But the things that I took from what he talked about his coaching staff. We talked about Bill Callahan, a guy that he really leans on. The 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 interesting thing about Bill Callahan is more of a gap guy, and Kevin Stefanski mentioned that he's more of a wide zone guy. So you're going to probably see a mixture of both of those offenses, but Kevin really is a wide zone guy. That's who he is at heart. That's what he want to run. That's that West Coast offense. You go back to the Denver Broncos. You go back to the San Francisco 49ers. All those teams that like to run that wide zone. The Houston Texans back when they had Matt Schaub and stuff like that. So those are some of the things that Kevin Stefanski talked about. I think the biggest news that everybody was a little shocked about was that the fact that Tommy Rees is going to actually call the plays, and he's fine with that. I talked about Tommy Rees when they made the hire, and a lot of people not upset about it because of his inexperience of calling plays in the NFL. He only called plays for one season with the Cleveland Browns. But however, he has called plays in the college, a lot of plays, right? He called it for the Crimson Tide. We talked about it. He called it for the Notre Dame. So he's not a guy that does not have experience calling plays. Now, at a pro level, yes, right? So I can understand the concerns there. So I just hope it works out. I know that's not what most of us wanted to hear. A lot of people is kind of cringing about that. The fact that we got a young quarterback and we're going to have Tommy Rees call the plays, and the fact that we just had what we had from Zach Robinson, somebody that was coming in, had never called plays before, and how he, kind of game plan throughout the week. So it's going to be interesting to see how that pans out. This another guy, like I said, Matt mentioned that he had a lot of confidence in him. They did a lot of vetting, his reputation around the football world was well respected as well. So we'll see. He's a young coach, right? He's like 34-year-old. So this is a guy that if he does really, really, do well this year, you can see him in a couple of years be on the hiring circuit to be a coach. So we'll see what Tommy Rees all about. Working along with Bill Callahan and Kevin Stefanski, maybe we might not have as many issues we think, but at this point in time, this right here is questionable, right? Let's just say the least. This is one of the questionable decisions already. Having him call plays where Kevin Stefanski has more experience in doing that, right? But we'll see what happens with this moving forward. A lot of people thinking that the fact that he's going to be with a more talented, roster, more stable roster here, that we could see more success. We did see some good things, this season. Not, I mean, the offensive line was just terrible in Cleveland. If you watch I watched all those games, especially the 7 games that Shadur Sanders quarterback. And the offensive line was not good at all. But they had success moving the ball. Like I said, with more talent, better quarterback play, we might be able to see what Tommy Rees all about. So I don't think we got a really good glimpse of what he was able to do in Cleveland since this being his first year, and the dysfunction, the rotating, quarterbacks in and out and things like that. So we really don't know what kind of offensive coordinator Tommy Rees really is. This is, like I said, but this is one of the questionable decisions right now. We'll just have to see how it pans out moving forward. But yes, that was one of the biggest news that we heard from Kevin Stefanski, was that Tommy Rees is going to be the play caller for this team. So we'll just have to see how that pans out. They asked him about the quarterbacks, right? We talked about Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix. I'm just going to tell you guys, I know people keep throwing Kirk Cousins names out there. It's not what they say, it's what they do not say, right? And one thing that we heard was, because he was asked about both quarterbacks. He asked about Michael Penix, who said the biggest thing for Michael Penix is to get his rehab done, which is correct, right? But he said that he worked well with Kirk Cousins, but when we'll talk about those decisions later. He didn't say that, yeah, I had a lot of good time with Kirk Cousins. We might be able to. He didn't say none of that. I think the decision made guy Kirk Cousins, and I keep trying to explain this, and the national media, they're gonna say what they want to say. Kirk Cousins, the guy, whatever. No, by him restructuring his contract, he pretty much put the Falcons on notice. 100%, he put them on notice. And what I mean by that, either you keep me long term and I renegotiate my contract, or you cut me, because the Falcons is not going to pay him $67 million next year. That's not going to happen. So either they guarantee him that he's a starter, right, and he'll restructure his contract moving forward, or he want to be cut. This is pretty much what that restructuring did. I'm just being honest. That's what the restructuring really did for this Kirk Cousins decisions. And in the end, I believe that they're going to decide to turn the page on that. I don't think you want a 38-year quarterback coming back. And from a roster build perspective, you got a number 8 overall pick that you're not even sure about the talent. The question mark is his health. I don't think it's his skill set. His ceiling is higher, but the question mark is his health, right? If he can stay healthy, they need to find out what they got in Michael Penix Jr., and that's really what it boils down to. So when you're talking about the quarterback position, it's not what he said, it's what he didn't say, in my opinion. And one thing he didn't say was, I mean, what I did not hear was Kirk Cousins was going to be here long term, and I just don't believe he's going to be here because of that restructure. Now, if they hadn't did that restructure, it's a possibility he could be here to start the season. But the fact that they keep not mentioning him to the point where they only talk about Michael Penix, right? Um, he's going to be the guy, right? Now the question is, who they're going to fill in to who they want to sign to fill in until Michael is ready to go. That's the biggest question. And I wish we had a timetable. That's one thing I don't like about the off season, whatever, because we don't get no updates on these guys' health, where they're at and their timetable and things like that. Um, One good thing, Michael Penix knows how to deal with ACL injury, so he knows how to to get better in this situation. So that's one of the good things. What's going on, Christy? Uh, let's see what Eddie has to say. Stefanski wanted his DB coach from Cleveland, but if Schwartz is hired, he wants him for the high role. So they already kept one of our defensive back coach in Justin Hood. So he probably will not get the defensive back coach. Jerry Gray, they haven't mentioned him coming back as well. He's the cornerback coach. So we haven't heard anything about Jerry Gray yet. They're still building the staff. The staff is not complete yet. There's one thing. Another thing, Coach mentioned was the fact that every hire is important, right? Of course, you get out the special teams, you get the defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, you get those guys out of the way. But those position coaches is really important. They really are, because those are guys going to help develop the guys the most. So you want to make sure you get good defensive coaches. That's why most people were so ecstatic by the fact that Nate Ali was coming back, because him as a defensive line coach, we saw the progression that our young defensive lineman had with him at the helm. So the position coach is going to be huge as well. So this in my opinion, this is not it's nowhere near over, building out the staff like they want to build it. So be looking out for more names the rest of this week, and once we get them, we'll definitely talk about that. Another question was asked about the tight end position, and he said that was his first position, that he coached, in the NFL and up under Mike Zimmer, right? And he loves tight end guys. So if you like what Arthur Smith was all about back in his 3-year stint here, I think we're going to get another rendition of that, guys. Right? So be on the lookout for the usage of the tight ends. And by him saying that, I just don't see them letting Kyle Pitts leave, right? Unless they got another ace in the hole. Because if you like tight ends, you got one of the best young tight ends on your team already. Second team All Pro, and the way you talked about how you use them guys line up all over the field and the backfield, things that you said you'll be able to do with the tight end position. I believe that Kyle Pitts would be perfect. That I just think when you listen to what he had to say and how you look at how Kyle Pitts been used, throughout his tenure here in Atlanta, I don't think he was used his talents the way they should have been used, right? I think they limited him to a extent where some of the things that he could be as a mismatch, they didn't take advantage of that enough, right? So this is where I think Kyle Pitts could definitely have opportunity to actually be back with this team. And man, I think it's going to be something special to bring. Look at some of these other comments here. Say social media was talking about bringing in Carson Wentz. Hey, whoever the bridge quarterback is, Carson Wentz is a quarterback. You look at some of the guys that he's familiar with, that could come in to be a bridge, that know they're a bridge quarterback. Like Kirk Cousins wanted to be a starter, we know that. So he's the one that I think they have to, because he's not willing to help develop Michael Penix, right? He's all about wanting to be a starter. He still thinks he got those chops. So he's not a right quarterback here. But you look at guys he worked with. Jacoby Brissett is another guy that he worked with. You remember he actually went to the playoffs with Jacoby Brissett. So that's one of the guys that that you can think about with him. Um, that's the year that Deshaun Watson actually was out for 11 games, right? Jacoby Brissett came in. He was just the backup quarterback. Now he's still on the contract with the Arizona Cardinals, but we don't know what the Arizona Cardinals going to do at the quarterback position. They don't even have their head coach yet, so look out for him. Of course, Jameis Winston, think he's still on the contract with the New York Giants. What they're going to do with him, I think they probably keep him, but we don't know because John Harbaugh there got a new coach as well. Coach Russell Wilson is a free agent. Somebody mentioned Carson Wentz. Mitchell Trubisky is another guy that they could definitely consider bringing in. All these guys don't talk about just bridge guys, not somebody that's coming in to be a starter, but bridge guys that, you know, that can come in and run the offense comfortably, and that's what you want. So, you know, it's just certain things like that when we're looking at the quarterback position, um, you know, we'll just have to see how it gonna pan out. Eddie says Stefanski wanted. We already read that one. He said a tight end that played in Cleveland last season is a free agent. Yeah, David Njoku. Yeah, he is. So you can pair him up with Kyle Pitts, right? Because like I said, we don't have our general manager yet, but the smartest thing for the Atlanta Falcons to do is to create cap space. But how you create cap space, easiest way is to sign players. That's probably the easiest way. You know, people say you can restructure contracts. You don't really need to do that. You can sign two of your best players that you know going to be here long term. And if they sign Bijan Robinson and Drake London, that would open up a lot of cap space. Both of those guys are going to be here a while. So you sign Bijan Robinson, you sign Drake London, go ahead and get them long-term contracts. You reduce that cap number in 2026, will help you build this team up, right? And help you keep some of your free agents that you want, like a Kyle Pitts, like a Caden Ellis. That's what you're trying to do. Because those guys, in my opinion, it's really good guys that you want to build, you know, this team with. So, but the easiest way to do it, in my opinion, is just sign your two guys that you know going to be here a while, right? When you got guys like a Chris Lindstrom, go ahead and lock him up because you know he's going to be here a while. He's you know, 4-time All-Pro. This guy is redo his contract. You know what I'm saying? Bijan Robinson, go ahead and lock him up. We know how special he is. He talked about Bijan Robinson today. Drake London, spectacular, right? Go ahead and lock him up. Those are the contracts, in my opinion, you can go ahead and get done, and you free up cap space. Right now, it's projected Atlanta Falcons going to have like $27 million. And this could fluctuate, but when they come out with the cap for this year, this new football year, we'll know more about it. But right now, I projected $27 million. You know, if you franchise tag Kyle Pitts, that puts you at like $11,000 left, and that's what I mean. That's why they need to make some moves to be able to come in and you know, add more cap space to the table. I can tell you this: the Atlanta Falcons have the most cap space in the NFC South, so we can actually build some things here. We'll see what the Atlanta Falcons able to do with this new GM. And with the trio of Matty Ice and Kevin Stefanski. So it's going to be huge to see what they're able to pull off. Tight ends are coming for sure. One of the hot topic discussions on the inside, they're really going to try hard to retain Pitts because in many ways they can employ him exactly. He's one of the weapons. You look at Bijan, you look at Kyle Pitts. Those probably the two players the most that create the most mismatches, in my opinion. Drake London, you know, he's a receiver. Receivers always do what they do. But when you look at Kyle Pitts and the way his talent is, being a tight end, but having wide receiver, features and being able to do those things and use him like a Swiss Army knife would be good, right? Like, I don't know if we ever seen Kyle Pitts line up in the backfield like the Cleveland Browns used Harold Fanning this year, right? But just imagine having him come out the backfield, on one of those routes, create mismatches. Because if he's in the backfield, they probably put a linebacker on him or something like that, or safety. Either way, I think Kyle Pitts will create a mismatch. So that's going to be awesome. T. Terry says, um, the face of the Atlanta Falcons is Bijan. We saw that today. We talked about him 100%. Yeah, he is the engine right now, right? Until we get a quarterback in place, Bijan will be the face, right? Right now, the quarterback usually be the face of the franchise, but we don't have one that's solidified. So definitely, I see why you would say that. And that is 100% correct. Um, they brought up the development for quarterbacks. He would ask that question, and he talked about developing his players. He's a maniac. He really be intentional about how each player is set up to build. That's why I say these position coaches are important, because it's going to give these guys something to work on during the off season to make sure that when they come back they're ready to go. Of course, the Atlanta Falcons is a new team. Got a new coach, so they're going to actually be able to start here April 7th. That's you know right around the corner here soon. This month is almost over, going into February, so we'll be in OTAs before you know it. Be in OTAs before you know it. So, but he talked about developing, not just the quarterback, but developing all his players, and he's really intentional about it. He said he's a maniac about it. He's passionate about it, and he can't wait to get on the field. So, that those are some of the things that you like to hear from the coach. Like I said, a lot of times listening to these guys, because you always gonna get pumped up when guys talk, right? You listen to Raheem Morris, speech that he gave, you make you run through a wall, right? That's what they do, man. They really good talkers. They have you all pumped up, but none of that's gonna matter. It's a matter about how they build this team out, which is gonna be interesting, and then you know how they play on the field, right? See if the vision that Max talked about, playing physical brand of football on offense and defense, is going to show, show itself in year one in this new regime. That's what we want to see, and if it does, you can be impressed about what the Atlanta Falcons going to be able to do here. So that 330 said the kind of interview went better than expected. I was impressed by the press conference that we seen today. I really was from Matt Ryan and the head coach. Um, the whole like I said, the fan base created this whole narrative, and I think it got debunked a lot about with when Aditi Kikwala, when she got up there. I hope I say the name right, and debunk some of the stuff about how um, he coached his quarterbacks. And see, sometimes we don't know everything. We listen to the national media, and we get our own opinions about things like that, and then come to find out that a lot of that stuff wasn't as it seemed, right? Um, Now I can say this, and I do think the NFL kind of screwed the pooch on the the whole tradition of the NFL draft thing. I don't think he should have been drafted that late, in the NFL. Um, but it is what it is, man. Spill milk. He's moved on with his career. See, can he, you know, be in competition? Whoever the new coach they bring in Cleveland, see can he earn that? Um, he's one of the most popular players in the league, so it's nothing you're gonna do to get away from that. He has an enormous fan base because of his pops and the things that he was able to do at the University of Colorado, where it seems like people forget what he did. Like he actually played really well there. Um, but you know, whatever. We're not going to talk about that. Um, but what I can say, just to wrap this up about the coach, um, is that the staff he's putting together. I'm impressed by what he had to say about the things to me that brings back the fundamentals of football, running the ball, being able to do play action, utilizing the tight ends. Like, man, I'm excited to see how this thing turns out on the offensive side of the ball. We kind of got a glimpse of what we're going to expect from defense. Expect it to be a whole lot better, but man, I was really highly impressed with what I seen today from especially our new president of football and our head coach. Um, Teacher said, "Man, I just look very happy to be running his old team and to be home with the Falcons." Yeah, man, and the way he took charge, man. The question they was asking him, and he just took charge. You can see that quarterback, the CEO of the team coming out when he talks about, being, freaking intentional about how this thing gonna be laid out, right? When they asked about the vision, he said it's just starting, right? And didn't hesitate. He said we're just starting, right? We got to get our GM in. We got to go through our roster, and we're gonna build it from there, right? Figure out what we don't have, what we do have, and things like that. So, yeah, man, I was really impressed about what I heard from this. So, the takeaway from me um, is an A. With everything I heard, except the Tumariz thing, that's still a question mark. We're gonna see what happens with that. But everything else was really good, really solid, and I can't wait to see this team, um, what they do in the off season to add to these young talent that the Atlanta Falcons already have. Man, I can't wait to see what they do. All right, last thing we're gonna talk about today, guys, is dun 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 the GM search. We're still talking about the GM search, and we do have news. The Atlanta Falcons have um narrowed down to two candidates, guys, and they're scheduled to interview on Thursday for the job, and that's assistant GM from the Houston Texans, James Lipperford. We talked about him. He's a Georgia Tech native, right? A guy that before he played with before he came to the Houston Texans, spent 9 seasons with the New England Patriots. He was part of 9 division titles, 4 AFC championships, and two Super Bowl victories. And guys, did you hear? Bill Belichick is not a first ballot Hall of Famer. Man, they need the Hall of Fame is just like the Pro Bowl now. You can't even trust it no more. Bill Belichick, Hall of Famer. He got 8 Super Bowls. 8 Super Bowls, guys. 2 as a coordinator, 6 as a head coach. And he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer. Get the out of here. Are you serious right now? Like, whoever doing the voting need to be ashamed of themselves. Like, they all need to be stripped of their voting right. No way that Bill Belichick is not a first ballot Hall of Famer. No way at all. Like, it's impossible. If you're basically, and if the word on the street that they hinted for Deflategate and Spygate, right? Well, Tom Brady better not be the first ballot Hall of Fame either then, because he was a quarterback doing both of those. And if Bill Belichick's not a first ballot Hall of Famer, Tom Brady can't either, because you're gonna hit Bill Belichick for that. You got to hit Tom Brady as well. And that's how stupid that sounds, because both of those guys are first ballot Hall of Famer without a shadow of a doubt. And the fact that he didn't get in on the first time is ridiculous, just stupid. Like, I can't even believe that they actually did that. That make no sense. And the only thing I think about is that they hated speaking to him in the press. But I got off track. Yeah, James Leopold is one of the candidates, and the other candidate is Ian Cunningham, the assistant GM for the Chicago Bears. Like I said yesterday, most people think Ian Cunningham is the front runner, right? Um, so between those two guys, other 4 guys that they interviewed, D was the guys that It came down to we haven't heard about any other interviews, so I'm assuming these are the two candidates. And if they interview Thursday, I anticipate an announcement, late Thursday or Friday at the latest, right? Because they need to get this thing going. I'm seeing clips already of the Senior Bowl. I talked about Senior Bowl, and we already seen clips of that, right? I did say that two of our guys are already down there, um, scouting players and things like that. But man, I know that people say that we're and Matt said it today that we're good, but they need to go ahead and make this higher, man, because they got a lot of work to do. They really do. Um, the coaches can go ahead and start looking at film and trying to lay out what they think. Jeff Albrecht is head of the game because he knows his defense and know what he needs. But from a head coach standpoint, offensive guy standpoint, it's a lot of work that they need to be able to get out of this. And man, that's what we need to be able to see. So the two GM searches narrowed down to two guys, James Lipperberg and Ian Cunningham. So we'll see who they decide. Like I said, the word on the street is Ian Cunningham. And if it is Ian Cunningham, that's the worst kept secret. Just like the Matt Ryan being president, we were kept secret because they've been talking about Ian Cunningham since before Matt Ryan became president of football. So if he does end up being the general manager, I'm like, okay, what took him so long? Because we all knew that was the direction they're going. But if they threw a monkey wrench in there and you know, to go with James Lippert, that would be something interesting to see, right? So, but I really believe in their process. If it's gonna work, we don't know, but you do, appreciate them going through this process and being really tedious and having their checklist about what they're really looking for in a head coach and what they was looking for in a GM. So, took the head off to those guys. Um, T. Terry said, Matty Ice is a born leader. Some people are just born with the leadership role. Exactly, man. You can tell like I said, he command, you know, whatever he was asked, he sounded like he was a really good professional, and that's all you can ask for from somebody that's going to be in charge of something. And obviously, the owner of the team trusts him, because he created a actually spot within the organization just for, and guarantee you when he created that spot, it had Matt Ryan in mind to be able to help, you know, bring in this new era of Atlanta Falcon football. What's up, man? I heard from you guys in a long time. We got to get together again one time for the Falcon fan. Um, you know, we got to talk. A lot has happened. A lot has happened since last time we talked, right? So, guys, hit me up. We did draft show. Did we do draft show last year? I did draft show with somebody. I can't remember. I think it was you guys. But um, we don't have a first round pick this year. But I still do a draft show with you guys. Let me know. That's what we're gonna do. Um, but man, there you have it, guys. I like what I heard from Kevin Stefanski today. I really like what I heard from the president of football. You know, first time in this role. It's not like he's a seasoned vet in this, but I thought he pretty much laid out, you know, what we should be seeing on the field for Atlanta Falcons: a physical brand of football, running the ball, play action passing, getting after the quarterback, stopping the run. Trenches, guys, trenches, 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 trenches. That's what I hear when I hear about physical brand of football. It's going to start in the trenches. That's what we need, right? You want to be smash mouth. Like I said, if you can bring that NFC, AFC North brand of football to the Atlanta Falcons, man, we'll pump these pretty boy teams that we got in our division, because that's what we got. You know, Todd Bowles try to bring that physicality, but Kellen Moore, he's gonna going to be finesse. David Canales is going to be finesse. But if we're going to mess some smashing out football, now the Panthers tried to do that smashing out thing, but we'll see how it works. So they're how it is, guys. But thank you guys for tuning in today. Please put your comments in if you like what you heard from Kevin Stefanski today, what you heard from Matty Ice today. Um, Give me your thoughts about Tommy Reese being the offensive coordinator. I mean, being the play caller for the team. I think that's the only thing we didn't like what we heard, but we're gonna see how it pans out. Um, the whole process of how they came, to making Kevin Stefanski be the head coach. All those things was music to our ears to hear. Seems like it's aligning up. Seems like we're gonna have our GM by the end of the week. So let's see what the Atlanta Falcons do this offseason. And once they make any more news about more staff hires, GMs, being named, we'll come back in here and talk about it again. This is your boy Ricondo coming back at you with another video. Peace.